Greetings, everybody. This is Jack Adam Weber, and this is the introduction uh, video clip to a series of COVID climate video clips that I'm doing for psychoeducation and holistic education regarding our pandemic and overarching climate crisis. So I posted a couple clips yesterday and got some feedback. I really appreciate the people that have spoken out and contributed, so I've taken a few of those points to heart. So I should have known that I would have gotten into speaking about yin and yang, but I did those videos yesterday sort of impromptu and in the spur of the moment. And I hope I didn't lose anybody when I spoke about yin and yang, and I still haven't learned to preface that before I begin such things, but I literally didn't know. So I thought it would be helpful if I sort of established a framework for which to, a paradigm to examine, to look at what we're going through. And I find that a paradigm or a model of what we experience is incredibly helpful to help us navigate and to help guide us, right? Almost like a compass as we go along. And just like with illness, it's important to label an illness and to identify what we're dealing with, because then we sort of objectify it and we can relate to it in a way that fits a kind of beginning and end, or a beginning, a challenge, and then a renewal. And the model of the 5 phases, or the 5 elements, and yin and yang, comes from the Chinese medicine that I practice. And I find that this model is the best model around to view most dynamics throughout the course of life. And this is a metaphorical model, so it's mythological in a sense, and it's really important to remember that. So it's not like there's like something called yin out there and something yang out there, and something like the fire element that floating out in the world, but that these things represent what's real in the world. They represent things that are true. And on the subject of truth, I want to invite you to not believe everything that I say, point blank, especially when we're talking about the emotions and subjective experience. I'm sharing with you wisdom that I've gleaned in my own life from working with patients, working with friends, and just being an acute observer of life and my own mind and emotions and those in other people. So take what I say with a grain of salt and see if it makes sense to you. And in public debates these days and social media, people talk about emotions and people talk about happenings in life, and I often ask myself if these people actually pay attention to what the nature of fear is and what the nature of anger is, and with black or white thinking, how binary we've become in our discussions and our thinking. And so one of the beautiful things about yin and yang is its inclusiveness. So take a look at how this operates in your own life. Reflect on your own experience of how these dynamics have operated in your own life. And if you haven't done that, then you can use some of these propositions as a way to begin to examine things that perhaps you haven't examined before. And my hope is that these videos help us to unwind, right? Unwind and really kind of simplify what I think is pretty simple in lots of ways. I think there's a domain of simplicity to it, and then also a domain of complexity, that we can't solve all these problems and how interwoven they all are. But I think in terms of shaving down a lot of the confusion and dread and anxiety and craziness that's happening, that we can make great strides in doing that and kind kind of pare this down to a level of being much more manageable for us. And okay, so I haven't even gotten to yin and yang, and I see that I'm already at quite a few minutes here. So let me just see if there's a bit more introduction before I get into the paradigm of yin yang and the 5 phases itself. So I'd like to say that this model of yin and yang and the 5 elements, also called the 5 phases, which I'm going to describe shortly, is an eco-human model. So it's an eco-human paradigm. And for this reason also, I can't imagine a better model for which to interface and to view and understand what we're going through, because climate crisis is an eco-human dynamic. The COVID pandemic is an eco-human dynamic. So I'm going to pause right here, and then I'm going to take a few breaths and drink some water. And I've got my spoon in hand here. I'm going to use that as a pointer. So I'll be back shortly for the second part of the introduction. Who knows, there'll probably be a third too. Depends how quickly I get through it. Okay, see you in a sec.